Hello YouTubers, this is Mark from the Tax Solutions Store here to talk to you about another exciting episode of tax. This is riveting stuff, gang. We recently had a client just look at my office a little while ago, and the gentleman has gotten himself into quite the pickle with the Internal Revenue Service. Did you know that if you don't file a tax return, or your tax return is not prepared accurately, that your odds of being audited go up exponentially? You've got a very high chance of being audited. The average Joe out there has got about a 1 in 30 chance of being audited. File an incorrect tax return, don't file a tax return, or file your income tax return late, you may have a 1 in 10, 1 in 5, 1 in 3, or you might be scoring 100% chance of being audited. And what does all this mean? Well, the IRS can assess you civil penalties. Okay, well, yeah, nobody wants to pay extra tax, nobody wants to pay penalties, that's a problem. But what happens if that tax number gets to be really large, or there's a pattern that the IRS notices or suspects that maybe you've been cheating on your taxes or willfully evading paying tax? What happens then? Well, if that number gets to about $40,000 in the aggregate, doesn't mean just for 1 year, but you total it up, and hitting the $40,000 mark isn't that hard to do. If the IRS auditor or the person examining your return or your tax situation suspects you're trying to evade tax by just simply not filing a tax return, and you can get yourself into that pickle. If that's the case, and let's say the IRS talks to you and you let them know by talking to them, you give them the information that they need, that yeah, you were willfully evading paying tax, or you try to convince them that you weren't, but in so doing they cherry pick the information that they want, you could wind up in the criminal realm. Once you're in the criminal realm, it's a whole new ballgame. You're going to need a criminal tax attorney to protect you, and if you wind up getting popped and get convicted, the minimum jail time you're going to get is at least a year in jail. Failure to file a return is going to get you 1 year in jail. Now, does that mean if you didn't file a return you're going to get popped? No, it doesn't. And how do you get yourself out of trouble? Get those returns filed. Into a criminal situation and wind up going to jail, they've all got one thing in common, and it could be failure to file, it could be filing false tax returns, it could be hiding income offshore. And those folks, they've got many different factors that are involved. But there's one thing that all those groups have in common. Of those three groups that I just mentioned, there's one thing that they all share in common. The one thing that they share is they talk to the Internal Revenue Service. If you get yourself into trouble, talking to the IRS is never a good idea. You need to hire a competent, qualified tax professional skilled in the area of tax that affects you and your tax matters. By talking to the Internal Revenue Service, you're giving them the one piece of the puzzle that they don't have, and that's your state of mind. Why? How did you get into this situation? And if you go giving them the information that they're looking for, they're not talking to you to be your friend. They already think you're guilty. If you're in trouble with the IRS, don't say a word. Take their card, be polite, be respectful, and tell them you're going to have your representative contact them. So that's it for this edition of Tax Solutions. If you have any questions, or you need tax preparation, tax planning, or tax problem solving, give us a call, 281-578-1040. We're here to help. Good day. We'll see you again next week.